So this is part 2. So hopefully you listened to the song, you did a little bit of reflection. Ultimately, I started to look through things through a different lens about six or 7 months ago. Like self-compassion and the words that you tell yourself are what really changed a lot within me. Ultimately, questioning how I talk to myself and the love that I give others. Am I giving that same love to myself? Because that question changed my life, because it changed my narrative. I changed how I spoke to myself, how I lived. Because for a very long time I knew how to love and support everyone around me, but I just didn't know how to do it for myself fully, And when I started to get really real with myself and ask myself some really hard questions, that's when I started to show up differently, So I just am really, really excited to share this process with you guys. This is everything to me, sharing my story. So a few different things, growth, healing, and transformation, they all take time, and consistent effort every single day. Leaning into discomfort every day in some way, shape, or form, embracing where you are now as a starting point, as a stepping stone, as step 1, not the end all be all. Not trying to force yourself to go back to old versions of you. Old versions that were hurting, surviving, that were comfortable, but are no longer serving you, right? Because ultimately, you will never be yourself again. That is a quote from a podcast that I recently listened to, from Mel Robbins, and the title of the podcast was How to Turn Off Stress, Calm Your Body, and Rewrite Your Mind to Handle Anything. And it's coming from the book, The Healing Power of Resilience. The doctor, I think Tara Nurola, I'm probably mispronouncing her name. She's a cardiologist, but she's the author of this amazing book called The Healing Power of Resilience. And she said, you will never be yourself again. Let that sink in for a second, because I remember when I showed up to Chateau, I was probably the most broken I had ever been, you don't go into your worst day saying oh, this is going to be great, I know, you were literally at rock bottom, right? So I want you to think about that, because we spend so much of our time and wasted energy on trying to get back to who we used to be. The strong one, always put together one, the one that was always happy. But what I want you to realize is that healing is not restoration. Healing is transformation, and you have to let go of old versions of you to become the person that you are meant to become. You have to let go of the weight of things that you are carrying that no longer serve you, perspectives and mindsets that no longer serve you, right? The new version of me, or Kim, isn't fixed because I was never broken in the first place. The systems we work in and under are. I was surviving and stuck on autopilot and looking for someone or something to rescue me, to save me, but the answer was always within me all along. I was my own hero. I was the answer I was looking for. I was the love of my life who had the key, the turning point that shifted within me was realizing a few different things. One, I changed my narrative. I changed how I spoke to myself, how I showed up for myself. I paid attention to all the words I said behind closed doors and the thoughts that I was having about me. I started to rewrite my story from this is what happened to me to this is the reality check I needed to handle life with a new perspective, new tools, and ultimately a new community. I know what my triggers are now. I am more aware of my feelings, my emotions, and letting them just be signals, not my identity. 2, I became more willing to feel without shame or guilt. Instead of trying to numb or outrun my feelings, I allowed myself to feel them without judgment. And I got curious, very, very curious with myself about like what's coming up for you, Kim. Why are we reacting this way? What is underneath this anger, this sadness, this, like, what is it? I got involved in my community. I built my own online fitness community with the hybrid athlete strength and conditioning program. And I've got about 50 people in this program now, which I absolutely love. But what I want you to realize is that you have to find your people. You have to find your tribe. Like, I don't care if that's knitting. I don't care if that's rock climbing, hiking, whatever it is. Find your thing and find a community that can help support you. New Form is this amazing app that is through the Phoenix. I recommend you all download it. And as long as you are 48 hours sober, you can show up to any of their events. It's free of charge. It's great for people who want to stay sober. It's great for finding like-minded individuals who have similar things in common. Everything from drawing to running to lifting to whatever that may be, right? Like last week, I attended this like creative drawing meeting, and it was so funny because this lady was like, I want you to draw things with your left hand. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I don't think you're going to be able to see any of these animals that I'm about to draw with my left hand, because that's about to be looking like a messed up elephant, you know? But she was trying to drive home the importance of like, let's start from a perspective of we're not trying to be perfect. And I was just like, oh, that's really good. So I'm going to share with you what my amazing drawings were. You see my little elephant? This was my left-handed elephant. So I'm very proud of my left-handed elephant. My little jellyfish and my butterfly. My penguin was not left-handed. And my fish is like terrible looking, but that's okay. I'm going to explain this, okay? So basically this whole entire like meeting was actually really awesome for me, because she challenged us ultimately to look at things through different lenses, right? So she wanted us to draw animals that had a way to protect themselves or fear, right? So, animals have a way of trying to protect themselves from fear in multiple ways, right? So the animals that I drew, the first animal I drew was the crab, because I'm from Maryland, why not, right? I was like, the crab, I have a hard protective shell, but quickly outgrow my shell. I shed the old shell and slough it and grow a new one, making room for new growth, room and fresh space to fill it out. This time of sloughing is the moment that I'm the most vulnerable, but I cannot expand or grow without it. New shells equal new beginnings. What shell or armor am I carrying that I need to let go of to embrace new beginnings? The second animal I drew was the turtle. I wince and I hide when fear arrives. I shrink into my shell. My protection, without my shell, I have no armor. Without my shell, I am vulnerable to the elements around me. My shell is my safety. And then the third animal I drew was the penguin. I dive deep into the ocean when fear of attack arises. My protection is the ocean. The ocean is my freedom. What is my freedom from my fear? Those are all questions that I was trying to ask myself and really reflect on, because there's definitely mechanisms we all have to try to protect ourselves, right? And when I was in my burnout phase and the worst place of my life, I just kept going back to the gym. I was like running away from my feelings and my emotions and what I was feeling by over exercising, distracting myself, right? I was like, I'm going to utilize this one thing that I know is healthy, and I'm going to keep going until it makes me healthier than ever before, right? But a good thing can turn into a bad thing very quickly if you're not careful. So the one thing I would suggest you do is really reflect on, like, am I doing this for the intention of running away from something, or am I doing this with the intention of being present and filling my cup? Because intentionality is truly everything. So the one thing I will say that helped me out in my healing journey was acceptance. You know, that's the first step with anything. You have to accept where you are to move forward, right? You can't change what happened to you, but you can the first step forward is accepting where you are. But you can change how you look at things, right? I'm not ever going to tell you to like look through the lens of whatever traumatic thing you've gone through and say like, oh, I'm grateful for that, because no, that's shitty. Sometimes really crappy things happen to really good people, and there's no justification for that, you know? But what you can do is utilize whatever situation that you're in and use it as that starting point of that day one of like, how am I going to make the most out of my life? I can either let this hinder my growth and I can be a victim for the rest of my life, but what does that look like 5 years from now? Or I can utilize everything that I've been given and all the things and use this as a trajectory into the next 5 years, right? For me to be more intentional, live a life of purpose, to live life to the fullest, to love hard, to feel aligned, and ultimately heal from what you've gone through. Post-traumatic growth is a thing. You know, my therapist that I work with now specializes in that in her postdoctorate, and I think it's super important that you look through the lens of whatever that you've gone through as it is not who you are. It is what has happened to you. So take a second, reflect on that, and I will do a part 3.